Our next presenter is Jyoti Manuel. And as many of you know, she's a level 4 breath, body, mind teacher who is based in the UK. And she's the founder of Special Yoga, which is a system she developed using yoga for special needs children. And she has been collaborating with us to integrate breath with special yoga as we are developing our programs for children. And we consider children who have trauma to have special needs. So that's quite a few children on our planet. So Jyoti, please welcome, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. So thank you, from my heart to you both, Dr. Brand, Dr. Gerbag. I came into the Breath, Body, Mind family about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, I'm not sure. And I was immediately taken by the ethos and the love that I experienced with the way in which the practices were taught, and also the impact that we as the adults around the children, it's really important that we are regulated and that we are open-hearted. And that's the same ethos that we sit with at Special Yoga. So I immediately felt like I was home. I've worked with the BBM practices extensively, as I always do with myself first. And then what I found was that there were different ways of adapting them for different situations, different circumstances and different conditions of children. So yesterday, I just give an example. Yesterday, I'd been invited to participate in a documentary about autism, and one of the young autistic girls that we brought in had arrived, literally collapsed. I mean, she was in absolute meltdown, absolute terror, hair over her face, wasn't breathing well. I mean, just completely shut down, sobbing. And I knew I had to get her on camera, hopefully anyway, within a short space of time. And I found that I used the coherent breathing just to help her to calm, so my heart, my voice, and so on and so forth. But when I stay really calm and I'm in that coherent pattern, then what happens is that the energy around me shifts. And of course, this child calmed down. And when she started to speak on camera about what it felt like to be autistic, her mother's mouth had dropped open with absolute amazement at how she was able to share, given 10 minutes ago, how she'd arrived. So there are just different ways of how I've experienced and witnessed the use of these practices. A few months ago, when the war started to break out in the Ukraine, I had twice it happened actually. I had 2 calls on WhatsApp video from numbers I didn't recognize, and normally I don't pick that stuff up, but for some reason I got called to on both occasions, and on both occasions they were mothers who had hysterical children. I mean really hysterical children, where the mothers were unable to get the children down into safety in the Ukraine, and the bombs were going off in the background, and the mother was very hysterical. The child was even more hysterical, and I used a lot of the BBM practices to support the mother to regulate herself, to allow her then to enable the child to calm enough to be able to take them down into safety. And it was I have to say, both situations were incredibly emotional for me. And on the back of that, I think I emailed Dr. Gerbag and I said, we have to do something bigger. Because if it was just happening to those 2, it was happening to an awful lot of families, an awful lot of children. And with, the amazing practices and with absolute grace, we got those children down into safety. So I'm very honored and very delighted to be part of the program helping in the Ukraine, where we're training up psychologists in particular, and I imagine parents are going to be part of that as well, to help the children to manage the highly traumatic experiences that they're in at the moment, and to hopefully reduce the level of PTSD that would otherwise arise as a result of the experiences. So one of the beautiful things about the BBM practices is they can be used individually, as I've shared in those 2 cases, but they can also be used in big groups. Just before COVID, I was in West Africa, in Senegal, where I went into a school to introduce the BBM practices. And I had all 700 children in the big field outside the school rooms doing practices with me, which we'd like to show you. Thank you, Dr. Gobart. So the outcome of that was the children after the session, a few of the children, the older children came to say to me, that was amazing. Why am I doing this? And the teachers reported that the children went back into the classrooms calmer than they'd ever seen them. And the teacher said they slept better. There's a huge amount of trauma in West Africa, as there is in innumerable parts of the world. So you can really see that these practices impact, have massive impact in all sorts of circumstances and all sorts of situations. And it's really, as I said, a privilege to be able to use them and work with them and to help the children. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jyoti, for sharing just a tiny glimpse of the enormous work that you've been doing over many, many years all over the world for children. So we're delighted that you're with us, and thank you.